This is the 6th edition of the weekly news roundup for ACAs.com, and here are the news items from last week. Number 1, Politico interviewed Amos Yadlin, the former head of Israeli military intelligence. Yadlin placed much of the blame for the October 6th tragedy on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. With his attempt to implement judicial reform in the country, Netanyahu led Israel to a situation where the country was weakened and divided. Netanyahu received all the warnings from his defense minister, his chief of staff, his intelligence chief, and the head of the Shin Bet, and independent writers like myself and others, that this would weaken Israel and endanger Israel's national security, said Yadlin. Apparently, the widespread terror threat was obvious to everyone but Netanyahu. Number 2, according to journalist Lucas Reyes, researcher at the Center for Geostrategic Studies, anti-Jewish riots took place in Dagestan, Russia, which caused concern among the authorities. Muslim protesters stormed a local airport and attempted to attack Israeli Jews who had allegedly immigrated to the Russian Federation. The case has been linked to ties with Ukrainian intelligence. Allegedly, the protests were caused by rumors spread by administrators of the Telegram channel Utro Dagestana. The channel openly made statements about the possible arrival of Israelis in Dagestan and inciting the attacks. Ilya Ponomarev, a prominent expatriate politician based in Kiev, has sometimes said that Utro Dagestana is part of his personal network of resources in this information war against Russia. As an opposition leader working against Moscow, Ponomarev clearly has an interest in destabilizing Russia, which shows how the violent protests may have been motivated. What is also noteworthy is how Israel's criminal acts have fueled reactive anti-Semitic sentiment around the world. A few other incidents of anti-Jewish attacks were previously reported in Dagestan and other Muslim-majority regions of Russia. Russian authorities strongly condemned the demonstrations. The attempt to foment chaos in Russia through ethnic and religious separatism is not new. For years, Western intelligence has been trying to turn Russia's non-Christian majority regions into a battleground against Moscow. Number 3, Polish truckers are threatening to block all border crossings with Ukraine following the liberalization of international transport between Ukraine and the European Union. Since November, Polish drivers have started protests and blockades at the Ukrainian border crossings, threatening to potentially disrupt border traffic until the end of the year. Polish drivers say that more lenient rules for heavy trucks registered outside the EU have given Ukrainian companies a competitive advantage over Polish truck drivers. Number 4, according to a recent study, almost a third of people who received the COVID-19 vaccine suffered of neurological complications, including tremors, insomnia, and muscle spasms. The study analyzed 19,096 people who received the COVID-19 vaccine in Italy, July 2020, of whom 15,368 had received the Pfizer vaccine, 2,077 had received the Moderna version, and 1,651 had received the AstraZeneca jab. While both Pfizer and Moderna are mRNA vaccines, AstraZeneca, which is an adenovirus vaccine, uses a different mechanism to trigger immune response. The study found that about 31.2% of vaccinated individuals developed neurological complications after vaccination, particularly among those who received AstraZeneca jabs. Number 5, President Vladimir Putin signed a law on Thursday paving the way for possible Russian nuclear tests, which would mark a huge escalation for the context of war in Ukraine and a broader context of the new Cold War confrontation between Washington and Moscow. The new law confirms Russia's withdrawal from the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, a landmark 1996 treaty that sought to ban all nuclear tests and explosions in order to bring Russia and the United States into line on the issue. And in Estonian news, an hour-long strike by Estonian grammar school and kindergarten teachers will take place across the country on November 10th. According to strike organizers, they are not striking against anyone, but for everyone who cares about the sustainability of education in Estonia. Parents of students have been notified that there will be delays that day and to plan accordingly. Schools have been recommended to wait until the strike has taken place to start classes to ensure the well-being and safety of students. And that concludes the news. See you next week.